Hey everyone, my name is Sam and thanks for checking out this video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button down below, hit the bell notification, and give the video a thumbs up. I apologize once again for the lighting. It's overcast and raining here again today for like 2 weeks straight now, but that's life. But I just wanted to talk about the books that I read this week, and because of the Canada Day long weekend, I actually got a good amount of reading done, just in like the overall number of pages, and I actually really enjoyed all of the books this week, so let's just talk about them. So the first book that I inhaled this week was Rich People Problems by Kevin Kwan. This is the third and sadly final book in this trilogy here, and I ripped through this series. I am freaking in love with it. It's totally like summery, trashy, contemporary drama stuff, and it kind of changes perspectives and focuses, or the POVs at least, each book. Our first book heavily focused on Nick and Rachel. The second book more on Astrid and Rachel's brother slash father. This book was much more focused on kind of those like surrounding side characters in the first two books, but we also got more of Astrid and a little bit more of Rachel and Nicholas, not too much. But it follows the same cast as the first two books, and things are happening kind of, it's very up in the air as to who is taking over this very important piece of land in this area, because the woman who owns it, Nicholas's grandmother, is passing away. She's on her deathbed, and no one knows who she has left things to. She hasn't really told anyone, and just things start happening that Eddie, he's kind of a douche in all of the books, not just kind of, he is a douche in all the books, is trying to make essentially like a power grab, while Astrid has things going on that people in this, almost like Mean Girls-esque society status thing don't think that the grandmother will approve of, and then Nick and Rachel are kind of trying to stay out of all of it in New York, but they kind of get drawn into it, and it's just so much fun, and like there's actually quite a few sweet moments in here that you see the grandmother kind of evolve, and it's something that like I never really experienced. My grandparents that have passed away were always pretty open-minded and loving of everyone and didn't really care, and she didn't really have, she just was kind of like scary figure in the first two books, but you get more of her and you get to know her story, which is very, very interesting. And in the end, I actually really love the ending of this book, with how everything is kind of wrapped up and the characters and what happens to the house and the property and everything. So highly recommend it. 5 out of 5 stars. Loved it. And I'm going to reread Crazy Rich Asians next month and go to the movie theater on whenever it is released, the movie, and watch it. And I'm so excited. Oh, I'm total trash for this series. I have a feeling this is going to be one I reread like almost every summer. So much fun. Like just ran through them. Then I read Wildwood by Colin. I keep forgetting how to pronounce his name. I want to say Smalloy or Smelany or I don't know. The picture's there. You can see the author's name on it. Anyways, it's this middle grade book that follows this girl living in the United States, where there's this part of town or forest that's attached to her town that everyone refers to as like the you don't go there area. It's just and everyone knows it's like you don't go there. No one knows what's there. There's nothing there, don't worry about it, we don't deal with it. And it's a very interesting beginning of the book when our main character is dropping books off at the library, and her baby brother that she has with her is picked up by crows and is by a murder of crows and like carried off away to this you don't go there zone. So she, instead of wanting to admit to her parents, because they'll be heartbroken because they wanted forever to have her baby brother, and it was so hard for them, so she decides to pretend that he's home that night, and then the next day she goes out on an adventure into this unknown area to try and get him back. And there's all of this politics and interspecies drama going on in there, and there's lots of cool, you meet different aspects of the forest, a lot of kind of Narnia-y feels, or at least from what I remember of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I really enjoyed that. There's no, normally when you go to these, magical realms, there's a clearly distinct, good people and a clearly distinct bad side. And this book wasn't so much that. I mean, you kind of have these two very obvious sides, but neither of them are really good. So this character has to come up and find the good people that are kind of just forced into these sides. And naturally, one of her friends from the real world kind of followed her into this realm, and they get split up, but they eventually find their way back to each other. It's really, really fun, really cute. It is a larger book. I got it on audiobook, and I'm debating picking up a physical copy of it because there are illustrations in them, so unfortunately I can't say much about the illustrations, though I've seen lots of reviews saying, even if they didn't love the book, that they loved the illustrations. It's also the beginning of a trilogy, I want to say, so it is a larger-ish middle grade book, but it was actually really fun and enjoyable, and I think it'd be a good one that you could just read a couple chapters and then come back to, a couple nights later with your kiddo. So I really enjoyed it. I think I'd give it like a 4 stars. I just really, my favorite part of this book was the main character rides her bike into the Forbidden Zone, and at the end she still has her bike, and I'm reading that, and I'm just like, I lost my bike probably 5 times a day when I was just in my home area, within 3 houses of where I lived when I was a kid. How has this kid not lost her bicycle yet? But it's really, really fun. There's lots of creative cast and characters, and I would really highly recommend it. It was really cute and fun. Then, after owning the book for, oh my good lord, over 1.5 years easily, I finally read Of Fire and Stars by Audrey Coulthurst. Coulthurst or Coulthurst? Coulthurst? I don't know, one or the others. I actually originally thought this was a standalone, but having read it now, that doesn't make any sense. It is a series. And there's the prequel stories, I believe. It's called Ink Mistress has come out, and they released the cover for the sequel book, which is why I was finally like, girl, you gotta read this and find out if you need to be paying attention with these books coming out. So I finally read it. But it follows our main character, who is betrothed, very, very young, to this boy, the heir, in another kingdom, and she kind of picks up when she is brought to this kingdom, and they're going to start the marriage preparations. She gets there, and as she gets there, she finds that she has powers heavily to do with fire, and unfortunately this kingdom that she's moving to is anti all of that. There's a lot of political, civil strife going on against the people in power who are anti it, and kind of suppressing this community that has these magical powers. And she finds it kind of weird that she goes to this community, all of a sudden her magic starts spiraling out of control, that she's been told to hide before, but she doesn't understand what's happening. It's kind of just she can't do anything about it. She goes there, she meets her betrothed. He's not a horrible person, but he clearly is, set to be king. He has responsibilities, he has alliances, and he has his own thoughts on things. And then she meets her betrothed's sister, who doesn't really listen to what anyone tells her to do. She takes care of, the horses and all that stuff. She has zero interest in being married off. She keeps fighting her brother and her family on that, and they keep just kind of well, whatever, she'll do whatever. And she sneaks out of the castle and palace area to go just, live among the folk and all that stuff. And naturally, a romance begins blooming between our main character, who's there for betrothal, and the sister, which makes things sticky. And as we go through, there's assassination attempts, and there's a lot of development of the political stuff and the magical battle kind of going on. And I actually really enjoyed this. I went into it pretty apprehensive because I heard a lot of people say that they didn't love it and they thought it was just very underwhelming. I actually enjoyed it. It was a little insta-lovey for my liking, but, what YA book isn't really. I think I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. I'm gonna read the rest of the series, or the books that are out now at least. I'm interested in those. And then I finished off my reread of The Lunar Chronicles by reading Stars Above. This is a collection of the short stories that Marissa Meyer released after, or maybe before Winter came out. And some of them just broke my heart. The one that sticks in my head is when Cress is left on the satellite ship. And it broke my heart. Cress is just the sweetest human in the rest of the series. And you see what happened to her and you're like, girl, I would totally be okay if you were one of the angriest humans in the world after everything that happened to you. She's so sweet. She has such a good heart. And she was just, she's so trusting. I can't. She's so damn adorable. And then the end story where we go through Wolf and Scarlet's wedding. Or kind of I guess that's the easiest way to describe it. And all of the cast is back together. And some really fun things happen. It's really, really sweet. And I just love me some Scarlet and Wolf. And last but certainly not least is The Iron Flower by Laurie Forrest. This is an arc, so I don't want to say too much. And I think I also want to do a review video on its own for this book as well. Probably a little bit closer to when it comes out. But I've read the first book, The Black Witch, 7 times since it's come out about a year or so ago. And I freaking love the first book. I think I actually like this one even more. I think there's a little bit more of, slight time jumping, like, you know, a week later this happens, or, you know, things just frantically happening all at once, whereas I think the first one is a little bit more, like, just like, this happened on today, and then the next day this happened, and the next day. So that's just really the only difference I noticed, and she did deliver on the kissing. There's lots of kissing in this book, but I mean, things got dark in the end. But I loved seeing how much Ellerin grew in it. It picks up, like, literally the day after the first book ends. All of the political stuff is just getting to the extreme. You may also notice some parallels that are happening in our own world. You may not, but you probably will. You definitely will. I mean, the Diana and Rafe's kind of romance gets very tricky and complicated. Lucas Grey and Ellerin and this Yvonne kind of thing is just weird, and we visit all the new realms kind of surrounding it that are going to be impacted by the Gardnerians trying to take over all of the Western realm, and every theory I had about magical powers and who was the Black Witch and what part of the prophecy, like where people fit in, was totally wrong. None of it is valid anymore. At least I don't think. And like there were deaths in this, and I'm hoping at least one of them is like a, you know, we didn't see them die. We were just told they were dying, so maybe they live? I'm just praying. I don't know if that'll actually happen. But if you like the first book, I think you'll really, really enjoy this one too. It's just... my head and my heart hurt at the end of this, okay? 5 out of 5 stars. So those are all the books that I read this week. Let me know in the comments section down below what you read this week and if you've read any of these and what you thought. Make sure to also check the description box down below for links to all of my social media. If you follow me, I will follow you back.